and welcome to another edition of Schiffbauer Rocks. Today I have friend, colleague, and I would like to say Royal Square like cheerleader overall with all you do down here in downtown York,
That's appropriate.
Lauren of the Dark Parlour.
Yeah. Hello.
So it's really nice to have you today, and I don't want to really describe what the Dark Parlour is. I think it's best that you describe it. It's
Sure.
a house of obscurities, but what entails with all that?
It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I have a bunch of vintage and antique items, but it definitely caters to a different audience as far as those that would be interested in weird and unique history. So I have a lot of darker items like funerary and mortuary items. I have a lot of medical antiques, but I also have a gallery on the second floor, and I have spaces that are dedicated to witchcraft and the metaphysical and occult practices.
What are your feelings of the occult? Oh,
Oh, I love the occult. It's just, hidden knowledge.
tell me more.
So occult is basically, just things that we don't quite understand yet. It's hidden knowledge, and so there's a lot of things. Even you could even take science to occult practices like quantum theory and stuff like that. It can get real deep and real crazy with that.
Have you ever heard of like the quantum, like, I think it's reality, where it's just hypothetically, let's say if I would walk outside with my cigar in my mouth and get hit by a car, I would literally snap into like another reality.
I mean, all things are possible. That's one of with quantum theory, and then like all these different, levels of existence and realities and parallel planes, and it's mind blowing. I love it.
Now, I just want to take it back. It's just, how the hell does someone like get interested in it and like open up a store like this? So how did your interest begin in like all these kind of oddities?
Well, my parents were very unique individuals. My dad was quite a character. He loved horror movies, and he was also an antique dealer. My mother, she was an artist, and she also really loved horror novels, a lot of spooky things. I did a lot of special effects makeup when I was younger. So it was these different elements. After they both passed, my father passed in 2017. So I was very, very lost for about a year. And I didn't know what to do. I wanted to do something that would honor his memory and, do something that I think that he would have liked me to do and would have encouraged me to do it.
Okay.
So it's all these little elements, all these little nuggets that I got from my parents and just life in general that I combined, and I wanted to share that with the world.
And how does that process been to date with having this like physical storefront? Because it's really, I know York's a very small city, a small town.
It is.
It's just, I could imagine you're getting people from all walks of life, not just locally or regionally, but probably nationally, that might stumble
Absolutely.
upon or research and find.
Absolutely. I've had people come from California, Vegas, all over the place to come and visit the store. It was a little nerve-wracking at first trying to open up a shop like mine, just because it is so unique and so different in a typically conservative area.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So, York still has a lot of old mentalities. So being a more progressive type of store was again nerve-wracking, but I was definitely welcomed, and I'm very grateful for that.
Now, when people visit, you feel like there's something in particular that resonates with a lot of folks in terms of like something you keep hearing about their experiences at the parlor, them walking through the various galleries or exhibits?
I think, well, I get two comments a lot, is the lighting. So I take a lot of care with the lighting, and then also the smells. So it's not just walking into a typical retail setting. It's about creating that experience through what you're smelling when you walk into the parlor, to, how the lighting plays into ambiance and all of that. It's that whole experience of being something unique. So it's not bright lights. It's not very, like a hospital type of atmosphere. You walk into some other retail establishments or other galleries that are so bright, but this is just really creating a very cozy home-like atmosphere. So tons of people are like, I want to move in. Can I move in? So that's really cool.
And it's really funny you said that in terms of like you want a certain ambiance with the lighting and the smells. Literally, it was a decade ago. I remember being in a college marketing class, and this gentleman, Jerry Patno, had done a lot of like corporate like market research for like firms and otherwise. And this before COVID. He said the future of retail, in terms of like not to like shoebox your store, but like it has a retail element to it.
Right.
In terms of like physical touch point retail, it's going to be all experiential marketing.
Yeah.
Where not necessarily just a point of commerce, that would become more secondary overall, but it's this, I'm going to go to a retail location to, it's a physical touch point for like someone's brand and what their products and offerings.
Right.
Where like that's the future. You're not necessarily going to have 100 stores anymore. If you're a big box guy, you might have 15 to 20 in key areas where people can visit and kind of just experience what a business might have to offer.
Absolutely.
And I always thought like a good example back then, it's still relevant now to an extent, even they've kind of grown in size, like the Apple Store. As corny as it sounds, it's like you go in there, you get to test out the products, but a lot of time you don't necessarily just buy a phone or buy like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 computer right there.
Right.
It's you just testing it out.
Right.
And you have these almost like experts, these resident geniuses. I don't know if they're really geniuses, but they do go through training, I hear, where they're knowledgeable of what they're offering. And to me, that was really profound. I'm like, that would be wild. That's actually how retail progresses. And I think by default, like, we'll like to talk about COVID, but it was relevant where like retail had to change. And now we're coming out of it. It's just like, I think retail and physical points of attraction for businesses, they got to have some kind of experiential element to it. Otherwise, you're just another store. You're just another gallery.
That's exactly right. Definitely. You think of, Walmart or any of your big box stores, you can get that online. It's become so easy for people to shop from the convenience of their own home, whether they're in the bathtub or lying there in bed, they can do their shopping. So it's very important to create that experience.
Just the other week, the advertiser I'm partnered up with, I call him Digital John. It's because I know a lot of Johns.
Yeah.
It's like John who
perfect.
runs this place. He was just saying he loved the convenience. Like you pull up at Walmart for your groceries, I don't have to get out. Dude, he's like, I'm putting all my orders in. He's like, I don't want to step through the store, and I don't have to step through the store. Yeah. So it really, that being said, not Walmart, but you're independent sole proprietors. You're trying to like create something, whatever their brand might be, like a House of Obscurities, like yourself, or a shop down the street. It's just, how do you create something unique enough where people actually give a shit to want to come in and visit?
Absolutely, that's exactly right. It's going above and beyond. I think it has been true, and it always will be true, that small business people will always work 1,000 times harder in creating a very personal experience for their client or their customer or whomever they're catering to. So, my goal was to create something that was definitely unique, and it fit into like the whole alternative idea, look-wise with the aesthetic, but it was still comfortable and cozy for anybody to come in and be able to ask questions or not feel scared.
Yeah, even if they're not necessarily the target audience per se.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it firsthand. First Fridays are very popular in downtown New York throughout the year, where I'll be out, they have a little courtyard out back smoking a cigar, and then Lauren has her back door open where she'll like greet people, or she'll have somebody working for her like greeting people, and they come in, and you're seeing people all walks of life walk in. And some people are like hesitant, like, is it scary in there? Is it spooky? It's like a Selkin's going to pop up and get me, but it's this, you invite those people in to have that experience that they normally wouldn't get anywhere else.
That's correct.
And they really absolutely can't. Like, I don't know of any other location like yours anywhere near here, unless it's probably a major metropolitan area. I mean, better than me.
I mean, surprisingly, I have a lot of people that consider me to be an oddities shop. And there are plenty of other oddity shops around, not that I've been in. Believe it or not, a lot of people are like, "Oh, have you checked this out?" Like, no, I work all the time. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I don't get to go out and experience other things, but I know there's a place in Baltimore that is like similar, but it's small.
I've heard of it from other people. I don't know what it's called.
think it's Bazaar.
Yeah, it's like downtown.
Yeah, something like
What it
that.
seems completely different than what you offer. But
Right.
with that going said, how do you distinguish yourself from just an oddities location?
Well, because I do so much. So, in addition to weird collectible things, there's the art aspect. There's workshops. Various kinds of workshops, whether it's on crafting and creating something, or it's a lecture on some sort of historical piece. All these different services and experiences that go
So
in hand
essentially,
with the house.
creating those more experiences just outside the smell,
Yes.
the aromas you get, the atmosphere as
Right.
you walk in.
Right. That's exactly right.
Just real quick, I was just really curious when you're kind of designing this atmosphere, because I feel like I know you're very intentional. You seem very intentional. Where you're like, I want lighting to be like this. I want the smell to be like this. Was that intentional? Like,
Oh,
we're
yes.
doing this.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
strategic in that fashion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot of red lights in the shop, but red goes into color theory. So, red invokes passion and desire, not just within the physical being, but, you'll want something. And plus, things look really cool in red light. So,
Absolutely.
red light's really, really cool. That, and then the low lighting, so you don't have bright lights right in your face, and that can cause headaches and can make you feel hurried to get out, like get in, get out. So you want people to come in and feel relaxed.
I say it sets the mood. I've been through it, and honestly, maybe we'll have Marty do a little quick walkthrough or get some footage for you. We can splice in here just to kind of give like an example of people can see it. It's the kind of analogy too, like when you go to like a bar and nightclub, the good ones,
Yep.
they have very intentional, just like you said, from like their storefront standpoint, or just the overall like kind of physical standpoint.
Right.
Because if you don't have that, or you don't want to create a certain atmosphere, people are not going to stay, or not. People are not actually going to come back.
Right. Yep.
What's the weirdest thing you feel like you've ever had at your shop?
Oh, I've had a couple of weird things. So let me think real quick.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I don't know. One of the coolest things that I've had, and I've since sold it, was a Champion molding kit. So Champion is a company that does a lot of mortuary supplies. So this was really unique in that it was like a skull, a metal skull, and there were chunks of wax, and that's how you could learn how to reconstruct portions of the face for open casket viewings. And I thought that was just really, really cool. It was rare. I had never seen it before. So I really liked that piece. It was cool. I kind of miss it.
Did it have some kind of like sentimental value for you? It was just had that interest when you like acquired it?
It was just the interest. With the whole mortuary, funerary thing, like that's interesting just because the whole practice of embalming humans, commercially speaking, is still fairly new. So that was really bumped up during the time of the Civil War. So a lot of this information, a lot of this stuff that we do in our current day is still new. It's, we're still learning. So, that particular piece was 100 years old, but that's still like new technology. I think that's fascinating.
It's just fascinating in general too. It's just like there's a marketplace and interest for that, because you hear about, outside oddities, like I almost view what like your shop, some of the stuff is almost antiquities too.
Absolutely.
It just, there's people who place value on like, I want this particular organ from like this particular time period.
Yeah.
As like either for like some artistic display case or showcase, or just because I'm just that kind of person. I want this hanging in my room. Questionable who that person might be, but they just want it.
Yeah. I think one of the other really cool things that I had, and I just recently sold it. It actually went to France. So it was one of the oldest pieces that I've had, aside from fossils. Fossils are pretty old, but so it was a book. It was, unfortunately, it had to be rebound, but this book was from 1692.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yes, and it had these incredible plate illustrations, and all of the plate illustrations were that of sigils and so the whole book was an occult analysis of sigils, talismans, and amulets. So I thought that was awesome. Talk about hidden knowledge. That was a really cool thing. So it was an argument from one scientist to another as far as the scientific properties of magical seals and sigils.
Was there any commonalities with the theories in that book, or anything you've come across? I'm just curious because this stuff fascinates me. Like, I'm learning. I'm very ignorant to this practice.
I wish I could say whether or not there is. So with that text, it was all in Latin.
Okay.
So originally, I had purchased that for myself because I had the goal to do an English translation.
Really?
Because there's no existing English translation of this text. And so I'm going along, and I've got maybe 20 pages of translation in, and I'm just like, I don't have the time for this.
You almost need like a historian who specializes in like that time period.
Absolutely.
And like that subject matter.
Absolutely. So that is one thing for my personal collection that ended up getting sold, just because I'm hoping that the person in France who purchased it actually has that time to translate it.
Put into it, the effort, just to get something more value out of it or more understanding.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Definitely all sorts of crazy things, like magic lantern palmistry slides and neat stuff.
The older I get and the more open I'm to different people and perspectives, magic's real.
It is.
I mean, I haven't practiced anything in that realm, but
science is magic.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, you go on, explain why. I'm curious, like your opinion, why on that.
Well, it kind of goes in with occults, hidden knowledge. So, something, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, or you can't fabricate it or do it. So, if you look at medicine, so doctors are still a relatively new thing before it was healers. And that's where a lot of persecution for witchcraft comes into play, because, you might have somebody in their cottage combining a bunch of herbs to create a salve to help someone's rash heal. Oh, that's scary. That's not okay.
Because it's unheard of. It's just like, what are you doing?
So, and that was science. That was somebody actually thinking, oh, well, I wonder what will happen if I combine this thing and this thing.
A to B to get in the desired C outcome.
Right, exactly.
In theory.
Exactly. It's science.
Okay, interesting. This whole thing just fascinates me. Like, this magic and occult.
Yeah.
I caught an ex-girlfriend of mine looking up spells one time and talked about it with her. I'm just like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of commercialism involved with things too. If you think of like movies, a lot of stuff is embellished, so it looks one way or the other. There's a lot of stuff with witches, again, and just to be made into these horrid,
creatures,
haggard-looking women, and that's a whole thing too. Just with a lot of persecution for women, and being called witches just because of whatever reason. They have a broom and they're sweeping out whatever. There's so much there, and actually there's a lecture coming up that Rissa's doing. She's my resident diviner, but
Rissa's amazing.
Yes, I love Rissa. So she's doing the history of witches in Pennsylvania, and I think that's so cool because Pennsylvania has a lot of amazing history there. Not all of it is good stuff, but it is fascinating history. You could go into like the whole Ray Myers Hollow thing and the hex murders.
I was like 10 minutes away from where I grew up.
Yeah.
Sacred ground. Like your body feels different night or day driving by or going by the property of that location.
Well, that's something that I would tell a lot of kids that come in when they're asking about, the general thing, like what is magic, what is witchcraft, what is Satanism, what is this, what is that? I'm like, well, first thing that you have to consider is that energy is constant. So energy, in however form it might be, can get trapped in certain places. So hauntings, you think of like paranormal happenings or creating something and, wishing something upon someone. So that's you putting like your mental, emotional energy into something.
And
it's got to go somewhere.
And it manifests somewhere.
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere.
Like, could be science, could be not, but like, there's been times where like I thought a certain way and things happen, and it's like good or bad.
Right.
Where it just like it brews almost.
Yeah, I mean, think of like your negative Nancy, and I hate to say Nancy. It could be negative Nelly, or
I was thinking negative Nelly with like the bandage on his face.
negative Nathan, something like that. So just because I like alliteration. So imagine somebody having like just a constant cloud over them, and just always
They're bad energy,
and that radiates to whoever is around them.
Yeah.
So why would you want to exist in a negative energy state?
I mean, I'm not going to presume, but have you had the experience where like I've been like in a bar, like in a public place where like I'm having a blast. I'm not even like inebriated, where I might have had like one or two drinks at this point, where like I'm coherent, like I can think, I'm conscious of the things around me, and then all of a sudden you see somebody from afar, maybe across the bar, and you just feel this bad draw.
Yeah.
It's very an odd sensation.
You can feel it. It vibrates around you.
No, it does. It really is. It's to me, it's a very real thing. I can't explain it. That's why I've said like earlier, like I'm ignorant to a lot of these things, but like feel like I've encountered it and like dealt with it.
Yeah.
I think we all do like on a daily basis. It's just a matter of do we just live with our energy, or like there's ways like, as you're alluding to, is like to interpret or have some more understanding with it.
Absolutely. I don't know. I think of times where I used to watch the news, like morning and evening, and there's so much negativity. Like even though that is not, it's not like the newscaster is right there in my living room or something like that, but you can feel all that negative energy, like
that projection.
Yeah, and so I stopped watching the news. Like I can't handle it.
I'm less anxious if I hear anything about the news. It's usually from a secondary source, like someone talking to me about it,
right?
Or I'm seeing just little bits and pieces. There's like text, whatever, be a tweet or otherwise, or a quick link. I don't dive deep into it because I know, to me, it's negative overwhelmingly.
You can't. And
then
it becomes all consuming. You get sucked into that negative pit, and you just spiral.
It's not healthy, I think, for almost anybody.
Exactly.
We'll talk about Rissa real quick, and it ties into a lot of the experiences you offer here. I remember last spring, first time I ever did this, Rissa does like a tarot card reading, or does tarot card reading.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never done anything like this before, ladies and gentlemen, and those out there. I'm just like, I was going through a really profound like decision, like my professional life. I'm like, I was a little skeptical about it. So I'm like, didn't tell Rissa this at all. This is the first time I met her in person. I just heard of her through Lauren. So I go up in the courtyard out back, and she gives me this reading, and like these the card layouts. And it was almost to a T describe the situation I was going through and like the potential outcomes of it. Where like if I, proceed with the situation, which it was only like, wasn't even like a personal decision. It was very clear. There's one thing I was like unclear of my life at that time. So I pinpointed to that. It was a professional opportunity. And she's like, if you proceed with it, you're going to be rewarded. But she's like, there's things you don't know about all this yet. And she was right. I found out more about it. It's a little bit because it's still in the mix. It's just almost like a cloud right now.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, it resonates that situation. I was taken back by it, the whole experience. So the fact that you offer opportunities for like her to come in and other, individuals in that realm and just creatives in general, I think is really empowering and allows people to gain, experiences, perspectives otherwise they're not going to get.
Right. It's insight, it's guidance, and again, it's reading energy, and it's Rissa being able to provide that insight, and like, okay, maybe you might not have been paying attention to this particular thing, and here I am reading your energy based upon what cards you pull, what
She
you
never
touch.
met me from Adam either.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, it's incredible. And it's not just tarot that she does. It's called tasseography, which is tea leaf reading.
Yes.
Which is an ancient form of divination. And she does smoke readings as well. So it's...
I know Costa John, who owns this place, he was talking about the tea readings.
Yeah. So the tea leaf reading, that's something that you can do like 6 months to a year.
Okay.
It has basically, if you look at the cup, the handle is you, and then going around the cup, that's like a whole year. So that's why it's so in depth. It is like more pricey than your average tarot card reading.
No, I would be interested at some point.
It is. That's what John is absolutely obsessed with.
That's why, like, to me at this point, like, I'm not scared of like destiny or anything that come up, like what could be foreshadowing. It's, you embrace it, and prepare for it.
And this is just reading signs and reading energy that you might not have been paying attention to. It's what it is, and you're like, okay, maybe listen this way or look this way. Something that you might have missed. So it's cool.
Be more conscious of it, aware of it.
Absolutely.
Now, just kind of tying that with the experiences you offer, what kind of exciting experiences you got coming up at the Dark Parlour?
Tons of stuff. So I have plenty of workshops coming up, and I am actually just announced one today that's, what is it? It's Magic Dolls, History and Hands-On. So that is a collaborative workshop between Rissa. So that's going into the magic in various dolls, whether it's poppets or voodoo dolls. Everybody thinks of voodoo dolls. But then with Kate from Hive Art Space, she's doing worry dolls. So you can learn how to make your own worry doll. So
what is that?
A worry doll? Yeah, it's Guatemalan inspired. So it's a little tiny doll that you can keep in your pocket or put underneath your pillow, and it just holds all of your worries. Holds all that yucky stuff. So that's what that is. It's cool. But the big thing that's coming up is Fang Around. So
all right. So what is, for those out there, what is Fang Around? 'Cause we're gonna drop this right around your next event.
Yes. So Fang Around is it's a seasonal gathering. It's based upon alternative culture, but it's open to anybody and everyone. And it's a very long day. So it's 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it's a bunch of vendors, there's bands, there's performers. It's a free community event, so there's no entry fee. Anybody can come out. You can learn about all sorts of interesting things by talking to the vendors or participating in various activities. You can see a bunch of bands. You can see, who all do I have? It's a lot. You can see a bunch of performers, belly dancing, drag, burlesque, all sorts of stuff, and just hang out and have a good time, fang around, if you will.
What's the central theme for coming up in April?
So this is Fang Around the Cauldron for Witches' Night.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit more on Witches' Night.
Witches' Night. So there's two parts to that. Valpurgisnacht was actually a night in which they would set fires and try to ward off any sort of negative energy for the coming of the summertime.
Essentially the spring, summer season.
Correct. Okay. And then Beltane, that's May Day. So it's a big celebration of warm weather and rebirth and, hanging out in sunlight, appreciating all of that. I know, witches are so scary.
It's just a big misperception. I feel like just in general, before I met you and this in general, people think the occult and witches is this negative satanic
That's
element.
Hollywood for you.
But it's not that at all. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. It can be. Yeah, a lot of us like a lot of spooky imagery. Just it's a matter of aesthetic, but it's not all of us are like, yes, I like to have a skull and crossbones up on my shelf, or I only wear black. I mean, I wear black because it's easy to wash, but
I wear a lot of black.
Yeah, it is easy to wash. I don't have to separate. It's a whole different topic. But there's
laundry could be free another episode.
Right. There's all sorts of witches though. There's your kitchen witch. There's a green witch. There's all these different kinds of ways to practice. I think kitchen witchery is really, really cool. So that's putting your intention and manifestations into the food you cook. So.
Okay, interesting. I've heard that, not that terminology. I've come across that on TikTok and otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's just me. I'm just me asking you all these questions. I'm just an observer right now. If anyone watching this, when they watch it or listen to it, it's just tell us more, because it is such an alternative kind of world. But just educating those out there. What are your thoughts on astrology when it comes to all this. I know there's some folks that I've come across, whatever, if it's very entry level with their understanding with the occult and witchcraft, they may also be in astrology. But I've heard on the other end, sometimes it's just like those who are really into don't necessarily embrace astrology.
Well, if you look back to ancient cultures, they pretty much led themselves by the night sky and, well, the sky in general. So, what was happening with the stars and the moon and all of this. So I think there's a lot to it that is important and prevalent in developing, whether it's your craft or just learning about yourself. And I think of like the zodiac. Like, I am definitely a Capricorn.
Yeah, I'm an Aquarius.
Okay.
I've been told that, but like it actually fits the bill.
Yeah,
overwhelmingly.
Aquarius moon, so it's very work driven, kind of cold. I mean,
Yeah, no, I can't be. I'm really warm in certain retrospects, but on the other hand, it's...
Yeah, not good with, like, emotions.
I am and I'm not.
Yeah, I'm very emotional. I'm just not good at showing emotion to people because I work so much. Anyhow, but all these things can actually, I don't know, ring true. So, I think of people like Rissa is a Pisces. She's definitely a Pisces. I don't know. Funny things like that.
It's more, to me, just coincidence when it comes to things like that at times with folks. It's very like almost destiny, or just it lines up to how it's supposed to line up if you're really looking at like the signs.
Have you ever had your birth chart read?
I have not in depth.
Okay.
We could have done that on air.
I know, we should have. Do like a full analytical report of your birth chart and how it plays into your actual person. Yeah.
I actually had a woman one time at the bar literally ask me when I was born, and then she said the time. I'm like, I'm not giving you the time. I know what you're about to do here.
right. It is fascinating, though. It is amazing how, like, on point it can be. But I've also met people where they're like, yeah, I don't line up with that at all.
No, some people, they just don't. It's, I don't know if it's ignorance or they just have no desires because of preconceived notion.
Yeah. And that's okay. Not everything is for everybody.
No, it isn't.
It's totally
I think
fine.
it's whatever. I mean, it's each his own. It's just sometimes you got to find out what's groovy with you.
Yeah.
Some people just, they do their own thing. Oh, okay. What's your favorite horror movie?
Oh, gosh.
As a child or then now? So you get two.
Oh, gosh. This is so tough just because, like, there's the basic horror, and then there's all the different subgenres. Okay, so as a child, my favorite horror movie was The Exorcist. I first watched it when I was 3 years old, so that's probably what's wrong with me.
My father let me watch Pulp Fiction when I was like 5th grade.
Good. I like it. I would watch
Tales. Okay.
Yeah, I would watch Tales from the Crypt with my parents. Like, definitely grew up with horror. I was reading Stephen King novels when all the other kids were reading like Babysitter's Club and Hardy Boys and stuff.
You were
like
that girl in school just like reading.
Yeah, I was a total bookworm.
Just reading a Stephen King novel. The teacher probably looking like, book down?
Yeah, no. This is Pet Cemetery. It's important. Exactly. They're like hiding my book, like with the textbook in front of it. Doing one of those. Anyhow, favorite horror movie now? I like a lot of old stuff. I haven't watched anything recent. I really haven't.
I think there's some good new horror coming out. I think it's still got to age a little bit for folks. Like Ari Aster, some of the stuff he's coming out with. Like Heredity is really great. Midsummer to an extent.
I love Midsummer. I did watch that.
I've rewatched part of it. I have to rewatch the whole thing.
Yeah.
First time I watched it, I wasn't like in the mindset to like this.
I like a lot of weird things though. Like I like Midsummer. I did watch The Witch. The Witch. I thought that was really well done. That was
probably one of my more favorite recent ones.
Yeah. I love the lighting in that. I love the time period. I love the dialogue. Everything about The Witch, I definitely enjoy. So I guess that's newer. That's within the last 10 years, hopefully.
I think the best, for me personally, the best horror films, regardless of like decade or like type, I love the films that they're perceived as not a horror movie.
Okay.
And then you have a twist and it all becomes something you're in a fucking nightmare. Not necessarily like a gore fest, but there's something where it's just like the stakes are high.
Okay, give me an example.
This is so unorthodox, but the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I love Predator.
It's a horror movie.
It is a horror movie. Well, it's a...
The first, like first hour of it, or like, it's your, like stereotypical 80s action flick.
Yeah.
Like Rambo. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden,
love Rambo.
They're being hunted. It's just like, what the fuck's out there? And then you're like on your edge of the seat, like this thing's going to get them.
I got to meet a predator.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I got to have drinks with a predator.
Like an actual, like some guy who like suited up like in one of the movies?
Yeah.
Which one?
Derek Mears.
Was it even in the first one or like the Danny Glover
one? A newer Predator.
The newer one. Like the Alien versus Predator kind of thing?
Like, yeah, like a newer one. But it was
so
still
cool.
He's so tall.
They're all like 6-7 feet.
I know, so tall. But I was like... You're a predator. And me thinking like being a weirdo. Like, I'm like, why did I just say that to this actor? You're a predator. But I'm like, but not like that kind of predator. Like,
not Chris Hansen predator.
Yeah, like cool alien predator. Because I grew up as a kid. I loved Predator. That's another one. I remember one time when I was sick and my dad's like, what do you want to watch? Predator.
It's just so good. I rewatched part of it a couple weeks ago. I'm like, this is still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Marty's off camera, but he's big on horror. What's your favorite horror movie?
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, that's so fucking good.
Yeah. That's solid.
John Carpenter just had so many like great films.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That and then Halloween, which is always a classic.
Yeah. Halloween's classic.
I just think in hindsight, this is like really ironic. It's just the fact the early Halloweens when you had Dr. Loomis trying to like literally murder and kill a psychiatric patient with like shooting him.
Yeah.
But now it's just like a mental health issue. No, we can't just shoot him, Dr. Loomis. We need to like victims.
We need to work with them and
that's just Hollywood for you too.
Yeah. There's so many good things. And again, it goes into like different subgenres like creature flicks and science fiction thrillers and all these different subgenres. And one of my all-time favorites is actually Ginger Snaps.
I've not heard of that. Just give a quick little like log line.
It's a werewolf film, so
okay.
Yeah, and
I'm thinking Hansel and Gretel now is like the title Ginger Snaps.
Well, I mean, it's werewolves, but I mean, as far as like the creature design, the werewolf creatures are really really cool. They're way different than what you might typically think. I'm very particular about my werewolf movies. Like I like Dog Soldiers. The werewolf design in Dog Soldiers is very very cool. So. I don't know. There's too much out there. I could spend an entire podcast just talking about horror movies.
The Changeling, now that I'm thinking about it, have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the list goes on. Mm-hmm. But as we kind of wrap up here today.
Watch Rosemary's Baby.
I need to. We were talking about that before we got...
Please do it.
Like on the shoot here.
Just watch that along with The Omen. And what else?
I still have to watch
Devil's Reign.
Okay.
Watch that. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
Okay, great.
See me for your horror movies.
We'll put a little like recommendation like in the Dropbox, like little tag here.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
But any last thoughts? Like, what do you really want people to like learn or check out in terms, even if it's checking out Dark Parlour or just checking out more of their curiosity to get home? What do you have to say?
I would definitely say visit my website. That gives a really, really good synopsis as far as what all goes on in the parlor. It's just thedarkparlour.com, but spell parlor with a U, Old English spelling.
Like it's a house of obscurities.
Yes, it's the German Pennsylvania Dutch spelling house, Haus of Obscurities.
Any final remarks?
Thank you so much for having me on. This was fun.
It's low key. That being said, cheers.
Oh yes,
it's been a pleasure.
Yay!
I'll see you at Fang Around.
I'll see you there.
Thank you, everybody.
Fang around and find out.
I love that.
Yep. Thank you.